Okay, so after we talk about the description of what rotavirus is, let's talk about like the mode of transmission or like how it's transmitted. So rotavirus is transmitted through the fecal-oral route, which basically means like poop to mouth. And just a side question, like who here has been around toddlers, children below the age of 5? You know they're not the most like, they're not the most intelligible individuals when it comes to like personal hygiene. They put everything in their mouths. They don't really like wash their hands after like using the bathroom. So that's how you can get like poop particles into your mouth, and that's how it spreads. I guess like for an example, I tried to come up with, let's say that this child uses the bathroom and they don't wash their hands. Well, they touch a toy and this child decides to put that toy in their mouth, and that child becomes infected. So that's like a picture that you guys can understand of how it spreads. And like a more broader sense for like the fecal-oral route, flies that like, land on surfaces that have poop on it can go onto your food and you're eating that food. So that's like another example for how the fecal-oral route transmits diseases. So that's kind of covering how it's transmitted. So let's talk about the diagnosis. So healthcare providers usually they make the diagnosis based on observing symptoms. Some of those symptoms include watery diarrhea, severe watery diarrhea, vomiting, fever, abdominal pain. Those are the symptoms associated with rotavirus, but they could also do laboratory testing. So they'll do stool samples, which is like sampling poop, and that'll like kind of confirm the initial diagnosis of rotavirus. So let's talk about the disease course. Rotavirus has an incubation period of 2 days, and within those 2 days, there will be a sudden onset of symptoms, like I mentioned, severe watery diarrhea, fever, vomiting, which leads to some major complications later on. So frequent diarrhea or severe watery diarrhea can lead to severe dehydration. Dehydration, I think we all know what dehydration means. It's like when you lose more water or more fluids than you take in, which can lead to hospitalization, requiring, in some severe and more extreme cases, IV would be used to treat the disease. So IV would be like, getting fluids into your body to replace the ones that you lost when you were like having severe diarrhea. So that's all of like the disease stuff. Let's talk about the relative frequency. I don't get to see that. The relative frequency. So approximately 2.7 million infections per year, and it's mainly from the children that are infected. And that kind of leads me to my next point: who's most affected? Like which population is most affected? So as I mentioned before, children are the most susceptible to the disease. Like I said, they aren't washing their hands, they don't know a lot of proper hygiene, which makes them really susceptible and more prone to contracting the disease. But also, developing regions that don't have access to like vaccination, clean water, or developing countries that make it difficult to practice good hygiene, those are the most affected populations. In terms of like the most reliable sources for information on rotavirus, the CDC, or Center for Disease Control and Prevention, would be like the most well-known source. And I guess it's kind of good. What was the most interesting thing? I think the most interesting thing that I learned from researching this disease is that like how it was really common in younger individuals, the younger population. So it was just interesting to know that probably everyone was infected with rotavirus at some point when they were younger.
And how will you use this knowledge in the future?
I'll use this knowledge in the future to educate the importance of hygiene. Like I said, the disease can be transmitted just by not washing your hands after using the bathroom. So it's really important to have good hygiene, even if it's just after using the bathroom or like cleaning surfaces.
Okay, good.